I don't want to see your face again. That's what my mom snapped during a family Zoom call. So I shot back, then don't expect to see another dime, and I cut them off: mortgage, tuition, groceries, all of it. When I opened my eyes the next morning, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long, long time: peace. But hold on, let's rewind a bit. I'm 33 now, and for nearly a decade, I've been carrying the weight of my entire family's finances on my back without ever really saying a word. After the 2008 crash took my dad's job and left a mountain of unpaid bills and missed mortgage payments, someone had to step up. That someone turned out to be me at just 22 years old. While other guys my age were backpacking through Europe or blowing paychecks at clubs and concerts, I was wiring money home. At first, it was just grocery money. Then it turned into the mortgage. Before long, I was covering Derek's college tuition, Kelsey's cheerleading dues, and what Mom liked to call her monthly allowance, even though there was nothing regular about it. She'd just text, "Short this week, can you help?" And I always helped. No one ever asked how I was holding up. No one even said thank you. What I got instead were jabs and judgment. Mom didn't like that I stopped going to church. Dad would scoff at my job in marketing like it wasn't a real career. Derek made jokes about how small my apartment was. Kelsey accused me of being distant just because I didn't drive 4 hours every weekend to visit, forgetting, of course, that I was the one footing the bill for the very house she wanted me to visit. And then it all came crashing down last Friday. It started off like any other family Zoom. We were going over Kelsey's fall semester costs, and I casually mentioned my rent had gone up again. I carefully, gently said I might need to pull back a little on the financial support. That's when my mom leaned into the camera and hit me with it. "You know what? We don't want to see your face anymore." Then she logged off. I just sat there, staring at the screen like an idiot. Tried texting her, the message bounced. I was blocked. Checked my inbox, nothing. No message from Dad. Not a word from Derek or Kelsey. It was like I'd been deleted. Just wiped away like I was never part of their lives. You'd think I'd lose it, scream, cry, get angry. But no. I felt calm. Focused even. I wrote one last message: "You won't get another cent from me." Then I rolled up my sleeves, not for my job, but to disconnect every wire tying me to their bank accounts. It's wild how quickly things fall apart when you're the one holding it all together. That morning, with a fresh cup of coffee and my laptop, I felt something I hadn't in years: no pressure. No emergency money transfers. No mental math to see if I had enough for food after bailing everyone else out. Just silence. The kind that feels earned. I started with the mortgage. My name wasn't even on the deed, but I'd been paying it faithfully for years. I logged into the bank, clicked twice, done. Even called the bank to make sure. Confirmed. No more withdrawals. Next up, the shared account I set up for Mom. Supposedly, it was to help her feel independent, but in reality, it was just a 24/7 tap into my money. I drained it. Closed it. The bank rep asked why. I typed, "breach of trust." Then I logged into Derek's college portal, still linked to my email, and erased my card info. I even left a note in the billing section, "no longer covering tuition." That felt good. Next came utilities. Gone. Grocery delivery? Cancelled. Then I called their landlord. Told him I won't be paying rent anymore. "You'll need to speak directly to the tenants." He paused for a second, then just said, "Got it." And that was it. No fireworks. No drama. Just a clean, silent exit. It amazed me how easy it was to remove myself, like hitting delete on an old file you forgot was there. For the first time in a decade, I wasn't panicking about bills. I could finally breathe. I figured it'd take them a while to notice. But that night, while I was having a quiet dinner, just something simple I made for myself, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I ignored it. Then another. 2 texts back to back. "Derek's payment failed. Mom is losing it. Call her." No names. No greetings. Just orders. Like nothing had changed. Then came a third message, this one from someone I didn't recognize. The second I opened it, I knew it was Aunt Marlene. Clearly, Mom had dragged her into the mess. She wrote, "Whatever's going on, your mother thinks you're being unreasonable. Can we talk?" I didn't even respond. By sunrise, the calls were flooding in. One number, blocked, left a voicemail. It was Kelsey. Her voice shook. She sounded softer. "I'm not mad, I promise," she whispered. I can't reach anyone." The college reached out to me, said there was an unpaid balance and that Derek might get dropped from enrollment. Then came Kelsey's voice, soft and cracking. "Could you maybe just talk to Mom? She's not herself lately." She wasn't yelling this time. Wasn't trying to guilt-trip me or pull her usual emotional gymnastics. She was crying, just quietly, almost helplessly. And yeah, that hit something deep inside me. But I didn't reply. Not out of bitterness, but because I was completely drained. Years of pouring from a cup that no one ever refilled had taken its toll. Then Mom tried again. Borrowed someone else's phone this time. First, a message. Please, enough already. Let's reconnect. We're family. 60 seconds later, she was calling. I let it go straight to voicemail. Her tone wasn't angry, not exactly. It was calm, almost pleading, but still had that same old pride tucked inside. You've made yourself clear, we understand, she began. But this isn't how families act. We've had our flaws, sure, but we've always stuck together. Then she paused and added, I don't know what you're waiting to hear. Do you expect me to beg? Still no apology. No mention of what she said to me that day. Not even a hint that maybe she'd crossed some serious lines. Just a woman who had always held control and now felt it slipping. They hadn't lost a son. They'd lost the person who made their life financially possible. And here's the thing, ignoring them didn't get easier with time. It got weirder. Their messages started shifting. At first, it was pure desperation. Then came the finger-pointing. Eventually, the rewriting of history. Derek sent this massive rant about how I'd always made it all about money. Claimed he never actually asked for anything, like I hadn't basically been his private scholarship fund for 4 straight years. Then Kelsey chimed in, dramatic as ever, with, I wish it didn't have to end like this. Like I ghosted them for no reason at all. And then, one final voice note from Mom. I played it once. That was enough. You think we used you? That's not true, she said. We leaned on you because we thought you wanted to help. You never said no. You were always there. You were the strong one. And you know what? In some twisted way, she wasn't wrong. I did show up. Again and again. But even strength wears down when it's never supported. And when folks only show up when the cash stops, that's not family, that's just a transaction. So I pulled the plug. For real. Blocked every new number. Made all my accounts private. Left the family group chat without a word. No cryptic status updates. No clapbacks. Just gone. And it was wild how fast I became invisible once there wasn't a $sign attached to me. By the end of the week, the calls thinned out. Texts trickled down to silence. And the hole they left behind? Didn't feel like grief. It felt like space. Breathing room. Time to think. A glimpse of a life not ruled by guilt or obligation. And that's when it really hit me. I wasn't just done being their ATM. I was done being their punctuation mark. Their exclamation point. Their emergency fallback. The next morning, after blocking the last number, I actually slept in. Not in a lazy way, in a there's nothing I owe anyone today kind of way. No phone buzzing. No bank alerts. No mental math running wild in my head. Just sunlight coming through my curtains and the sound of me finally breathing. I made a real cup of coffee. Not that dirt-cheap instant stuff I used to settle for just so I could pay their utility bill. And while I sat there at the kitchen table, something strange happened. I realized this money in my account? It's actually mine. I opened my laptop. Logged into the budgeting app that used to feel like a battlefield. And for once, the numbers didn't make me anxious. Then I grabbed a pen and started writing down all the things I'd put on hold. One day I'll take a trip. Someday I'll start that business. Eventually I'll do something just for me. And for the first time eventually turned into right now. Step 1, I booked a flight. Destination, Cancun. Direct. Window seat. I didn't ask anyone. Didn't tell anyone. Nobody had the right to be disappointed anymore. Step 2, I scheduled a meeting with a business coach. There'd been an idea in the back of my mind for years. A design studio to help indie creators build their own brand identities. I'd spent years making other people's lives work. Now it was time to build something of my own. And by noon that day, I'd done more to change my future than I had in the last 5 years combined. No guilt. No buzz. No shame. Just release. And it felt exactly like that first deep sip of fresh brewed coffee. But here's the thing, blocking phone numbers doesn't block memories. They crept back in soft, slow, like background noise you only notice once everything else goes quiet. I'd be walking around and suddenly remember how Mom always texted me sharp at 9 a.m. every Sunday. Did the funds arrive? No, hi. No, how are you? Just a cold reminder of my role. Or I'd be at the grocery store reaching for a half-decent wedge of cheese. And my hand would freeze midair. Because for years I trained myself to feel guilty for buying anything slightly above basic. I could still hear Dad's voice, clear as day, when he saw a clearance rack jacket I once bought. Must be nice, he muttered. Looks like the rest of us just suffer. They didn't want kindness. What they really wanted was control, subtle, creeping, disguised as care. The kind that seeps into your identity until you start mistaking it for love. Those first days of silence? Way louder than I expected. Because for the first time in who knows how long, I had to sit with a question I'd never dared ask. Who am I if nobody needs me? And honestly, I didn't have an answer. Not yet anyway. But I'd started digging. I went to a local exhibit on my own. Picked up a new notebook. Started sketching again, tiny fragments of myself I'd left behind. Little moments that felt like me. The me I'd lost while constantly trying to patch everyone else back together. Now and then, I'd still glance at my phone, half expecting one last unknown number to slip through. But it never did. Maybe they gave up. Or maybe for the first time, they realized I wasn't bluffing. I was done. There's a strange kind of sadness that doesn't come from missing people, but from realizing how much of you got buried under their wants. The truth is, I'd spent nearly a decade drifting like a shadow. I didn't move to find myself, I relocated so I could send money from a distance without getting questioned. I worked night shifts, not to grow, but to afford Derek's course materials. I stayed single, not because I wanted to, but because trying to build something real felt like a lie. How could I bring someone into a life that wasn't even mine to live? I was too busy financing everyone else's dreams. But after I finally cut the cord, piece by piece, I started rebuilding not just my finances but myself. One day, I opened an old drawer and found a dusty notebook I'd forgotten all about. Inside were dreams I'd buried under years of survival. One line stood out. I want to create a space where people can build freely, bright, welcoming, a little messy, but deeply real. I must have read it 10 times in a row. It was something I scribbled during a lunch break, years back when I was running on fumes but still had hope that my ideas mattered. That vision, starting a creative agency, hadn't disappeared. It had just been buried under a mountain of maybes and not yets. Maybe once Derek graduates. Maybe after Mom's car breaks down. Maybe when things calm down. No more waiting. No more bleeding myself dry for a bottomless pit that never said thanks. I reached out to a local real estate agent, asked about studio spaces. Signed up for a startup class. And I messaged a few old friends I hadn't spoken to in years, not family, but people I'd pushed away simply because they couldn't understand the load I was carrying. And I told them the truth. I said, I'm finally building something that's mine. The replies came fast. One said, it's about time. Another wrote, I thought you vanished. I hadn't disappeared. I'd been buried alive. But now I was finally clawing my way back up. Yeah, some nights were still hard. I'd lie there staring at the ceiling, wondering if I made the right call. Not missing them, just missing the idea of family. But those thoughts didn't own me anymore. What defined me now was the peace of a quiet that wasn't laced with guilt. Watching my savings slowly grow. Writing in my notebook freely without asking permission. I wasn't someone's backup plan anymore. I'd become my own. About 2 weeks passed without a word. Then they tried a new tactic, nothing direct, just subtle and calculated. A message popped up on Instagram. It was from a cousin I hadn't heard from in ages. Hey, just checking in. Your mom said you've been quiet. She's worried. Everything okay? I stared at that message for a long time. Quiet. Not cut off. Not after what she said. Just quiet. It felt like the story had been rewritten to erase everything. Like I had just drifted away without reason. I didn't answer. 2 days later, Dad, who almost never emails, actually sent one. It was short. Whatever's going on with your mother, it can be resolved. You've made your point. Don't let pride tear this family apart. I read it a few times. Didn't feel mad. Didn't feel hurt. Just that same dull ache I always got when dealing with them. That old routine of pretending everything was fine. Say you've said enough. Like I just had some emotional outburst. Not like I'd walked away after being drained for years. Then came the final blow, a voice message from Kelsey. No dramatics. No crocodile tears. Just her voice, quiet, tired, worn down. I know you think we used you. Maybe we did. I don't even know anymore. I'm not mad. I'm just tired. I didn't ask for any of this. None of us asked for things to end this way. But she was wrong about one thing. Maybe they never said it out loud, but they counted on me for everything. They just assumed I'd always come through. They got comfortable thinking I'd foot the bill. That I'd keep quiet, never push back. They figured I'd stay small, stay in my lane. So when I finally stopped playing along, it threw them. My silence had made things easier for them, not me. As long as I kept giving, the engine kept running. When I walked away, they didn't miss me, they missed their fixer. And deep down, I think they knew it. Not because I turned cold. Not because I lashed out. But because I finally saw the truth for what it was. And I couldn't lie to myself anymore. That same week, I paid my first month's rent on a new studio. Was it perfect? Not even close. The ceiling had exposed pipes, the floor was uneven, and every time the wind blew, the windows rattled. But every afternoon, sunlight poured through the back room like it belonged there. And for the first time in years, I felt like I belonged too. Signing those papers felt like a deep breath I'd been holding for a decade. Because it was mine. Not borrowed. Not temporary. Not something I had to give up the moment someone else needed something. I picked up a roller and painted the walls myself. Crisp white everywhere, except one big wall, bright green. That splash of color brought the room to life. I added a long table in the center, mismatched chairs around it. A friend dropped off a stack of design books. Another came by to help mount shelves. I didn't post about it. Didn't share a single photo. No announcement. No speech. I just opened the door, took a seat, and let myself breathe. And yeah, there are still days when I hear their voices in my head. Why don't you visit more? Kelsey could use help with her books. You know mom's tight on cash. That's not a real career, but hey, at least it pays. But those words feel distant now. They've lost their weight. I don't bend for them anymore. I'm not their safety net. I'm not the one they call when the fridge is empty or tuition's due. I'm just me. And for once, that's finally enough. Spring came early that year. The wind warmed up sooner than expected and flowers started blooming like they were in a hurry. It made the world feel softer even if it wasn't. I was walking home from my studio, still gets me every time, when a number I didn't recognize lit up my phone. I hadn't blocked it. I just didn't know who it was. My thumb hovered over the screen. Curiosity wins, always. I answered. Hey, said Kelsey, voice low and tired. They want to have dinner. Just talk. No pressure. She paused. I told them I'd check with you first. Then silence, the kind where someone's used to waiting, maybe even expecting to be ignored. After a moment, she added, I think they really miss you now. I didn't respond right away. Let the quiet fill the space. Then I asked what actually mattered. Did they ever apologize? She let out a slow breath. No, she said. They just said they want to move on. And I felt it, that little grin tugging at the edge of my mouth. There it was. No ownership. No accountability. Just skip the truth and pretend everything's fine. I'm not going, I said. Why, she asked, her voice soft and shaky. Not angry, more confused. Maybe even a little afraid. Like she finally realized I meant every word. Because you can't move forward without facing what happened. That's not healing, that's pretending. And I'm done pretending. That part of my life? It's closed. Another pause. Then she whispered, all right. I guess I'll see you around. I didn't say anything back. And we both knew she wouldn't. The next few weeks were quiet. Almost peaceful in a strange way. No missed calls. No voicemails dripping with guilt. No vague texts about talking things through. It felt like they'd finally accepted it, that I wasn't coming back. Not to send money. Not to hold their shame. Not to play along with the story where I was never hurt. I had walked away for good. And in the space they left behind, there was no pain. Only calm. With that stillness, I finally had the room to do what I'd been putting off for years. I organized a workshop in my studio, a branding session for small artists. 5 people came. One of them got their very first client right after. They sent me a thank you note. I pinned it on my wall. I had dinner with someone I hadn't seen in ages. Not because I didn't care, but because I'd convinced myself I didn't deserve someone who didn't need me. She laughed at my bad jokes. She asked about my design work like it actually mattered. And I told her everything. Honestly, I started saving money. Not to ship it out, but to keep it. For me. I booked another trip not to escape, but just to experience. To live. And sometimes, when the light's just right and the day feels quiet, I'll glance at my phone and think, so this is peace. Not silence filled with shame. Not distance soaked in guilt. Just freedom. And when I look back, I don't regret any of it. Not the years I gave. They showed me how far I'd go for the people I love. And not the moment I stopped. Because that's when I finally realized I was worth loving too.